Bum, 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 bum.
You're listening to Tove, a podcast about the good place in Jewish ideas. Hey, it's John Spiro Saved and Dan Ross, and
Hey, I'm
we
back, John.
not only back, but we're the ones who started season one, and here we are starting season two.
I am very excited about to talk to you about the good place in Jewish ideas again.
Thank you. Brought to you by a tagline. So I thought since we are starting a new season, we should go back to the question that we asked each other at the start of season one, which is which of the characters of the main characters that we each most like, and which do we strive to be like. You said that you were a Michael who strove to be more like an
I think it was a
Eleanor.
Chidi.
Oh, that's right. To say, you said you were a Chidi who strove to be more like an Eleanor. I said I was a Chidi who strove to be more like a Janet. I'm buying you a little time to think.
Mm.
Do you wanna stick with those?
Well, I love this question again, and I think that I stand by my admiration of Eleanor and desire, but at the same time, especially in taking in Michael's heel turn and that he's so obviously demonic in this way, like he loves his job so much. And I just want to love my job as much as as much as Michael does, right? That he's just so clearly enjoying trying to figure out how to torment these people. Not that I want to be able to torment people. Not that I
You're a
want that.
rabbi. You are
I'm a
still a
rabbi,
rabbi.
right? And I don't want to, I don't want to do that. But at the same time, I just want to have as much fun as Michael has with what he's doing. Although he does have his fair bit of frustrations, right? Like the humans get kind of annoying.
All right. Well, I've decided I'm going to stick with my Chidi. I don't know if you were a fan of the show MASH back in the day.
No, that's way before my time, John.
Way before your time. Wow. There was that MASH was for those of the people for whom it's way before your time was a TV show in the 70s and 80s that was it was a medical unit in the Korean War. That was the setting. And there was one character who was a Catholic priest. He was the chaplain of the unit. And they did either some documentary episode or actual documentary in which they were talking to the actors, and the actor who played, his name is William Christopher, said he always thought of MASH as a show about a chaplain in the Korean War, even though it's clearly a doctor's show. And I feel like even if Chidi is not the main character or the focal character the way Eleanor is, I love the thought of a show built around unethical philosophers. So and I think I'm sort of like, I think that life is like, organized around my ethical philosophy teaching. How, if only. So I'm going to stick with Michael. And, I'm very tempted. You and I both have this soft spot for Jason. And, if it weren't such a train wreck, that would be very tempting. But I think for now, I will stick with Janet also as my striving to be helpful and with somehow the knowledge and good cheer to be there for people in an instant. Wouldn't that be great?
Mm.
So we are looking at the first two episodes here, which were kind of bundled as the season premiere of season two, chapters 14 and 15. Everything is great. And you want to give us this summary?
Yeah. So the four humans wake up in a second iteration of Michael's bad place experiment with their memories erased and new soulmates. Michael gives the demons a pep talk, but some of them are perplexed by their new assignments. Vicky, in particular, feels her role is too limiting. Janet gives Eleanor the note she had left in Janet's mouth just before the reboot, and Eleanor sets out to figure out what or who a Chidi is. It's not a soup. Eleanor's new soulmate's response to everything is to go and work out. Tahani's soulmate is shorter than she is and has no interest in material things. Jason is paired with a silent monk who never leaves his side, and Chidi is forced to choose between two potential soulmates. Michael's plan falls apart as Tahani gets drunk at the opening party instead of Eleanor, and Eleanor confides in Chidi that something is wrong. Eventually, the humans end up together, and Eleanor announces her realization that they are in the bad place. Michael decides to reboot once again, but to conceal the foul ups and new plans from Sean.
Thank
Whew.
you. Yeah. So this is an episode that really I think is doing a lot more plot work to get them down the road maybe serious character work. But there is a lot of funny stuff in this episode. In the opening, maybe I'll grab this clip from the recording when Michael is pitching his idea for the reboot to Sean, and he says, "I won't let you down," and Sean says, "I think you will." Just in that just in a perfect like deadpan
You will
voice.
fail, and then
Sean,
you will be
I
retired.
think you will.
One of the things I was thinking about as I was watching this episode is what it would have been like in the writers' room, to how they were, so thoughtfully thinking of like what soulmates would specifically drive, or soulmate related scenarios would specifically drive each of the humans most insane. And poor Chidi having to choose between two different soulmates, poor Jason having this kind of lame other lame twin following him around. Tahani's so spot on. Like, this is everything here is small, and I have to wear cargo pants. And I need all of the tequila shots in order to wear these. And then the shrimp end up in all the pockets. It's wonderful, wonderful.
I love that Jason thinks that yurt is short for yogurt. He's
yogurt, right?
Live in a yogurt.
Right. And the demon who needs to go work out.
Yeah.
All the time. Oh man.
In the part where Eleanor is out in the neighborhood trying to figure out what Chidi is, and is asking like, is there a phone book or something like this, and she says she's going to go, I guess, talk to people because she loves to talk to people, and she says people are like nature's apps. That was one of those lines I wanted to just like push the pause button and like do a little dance jig, when I heard it. I was like, that's got to be one of those things that like take the rest of the day off in the writer's room. Like, that's a line. People are like nature's apps. Michael says to Chidi, actually, it's kind of clever how they punish philosophers. Every day they make them go to school naked, and then they take a test in a class they've never been to. And then they smash them with hammers. And that part is not so clever.
Oh man. They've had so much fun writing this show.
You have any other great laugh out louds?
I wouldn't say it was a line so much as it was a costume element. That whoever decided that there was such a thing as the best person's sash that poor Eleanor had to wear. I mean, that should have been the biggest red flag right there. In what world would the Good Place identify the best person? Right? It's like, and then you have to give an hour-long speech. I mean, no wonder she figured it out in the course of a 40-minute episode, right? Like, oh man.
The workout guy, Eleanor's guy, is complaining to Michael about his job, and he says, I was perfectly happy in my old job in the twisting department. People came in and I twist them until they snapped in half, and I move on to the next one. But this job is weird. It's all talk, no twisting.
And everything with Vicky, her needing a limp.
Vicky says Angelique gets to torture Chidi, I guess. Angelique is a hack.
Oh man.
Michael is saying to Chidi, you once had a panic attack at a make-your-own Sunday bar. Very early in the process.
You had to commit to chocolate or to fruit. Fruit palette.
And you wound up with kiwi junior mint raisin. I would like junior mints and raisins together. I'm not sure about the kiwi.
No, the kiwi doesn't quite go.
My family will testify to my desire to cover anything with chocolate. And mints, and to mix, and mint, definitely mint. In fact, I have taken to every so often putting a little jar of mint extract in my car so that if I get a nice smoke somewhere, I can just, add a little bit of mint myself.
Well, what, you wouldn't just get the peppermint mocha?
Sometimes that's not available,
Really? And, that's a tragedy. Oh. I mean, nothing makes me happier than peppermint mocha season at Starbucks. It's like, I monitor how many I consume over the month of December. Like, I try not to have more than one or two a week, but there's no time during the year where I more readily commit to drinking as much Starbucks as possible as I do during peppermint mocha season. It's really a highlight of the year. It's what makes December palatable.
Well, for me, all year is December, and I've been making my own
Well, you ice
various
them though, right?
versions.
Like,
Yes, yeah, I do, I do.
mm, mm.
So then the other thing, this is like the great Sean line classic here about we're trying out the new butthole spiders. When, Mike, when Michael is checking in,
So
I think at the end when Michael is trying to, hide from him the fact that things have gone entirely wrong yet again.
So one of the things I was thinking about on the rewatch here that I appreciated so much about the show moving forward is just having these perfectly normal people talking demon speak. The guy at the pep talk at the beginning was like, and biting, right? We're gonna get to bite them now. No biting.
And that would have been funny enough without the lead in with, I think we bit off a little more than we can chew and biting.
True, yeah. It's an expression.
So the first really these two episodes and the two that follow mostly do a lot of work to get into the meat of the season 2, which I think really picks up later on in terms of like back to philosophy. So what I want to bring here for a teaching to reflect on is a bit of a stretch, but it's our podcast and we'll stretch if we want to. And
That's a form of torture, John.
Stretch.
I'm sure that they're stretching, right?
Yes, of course. It's right there with
twisting.
It's right there with twisting. So, in looking for kind of a big idea, I remembered that here's a bit of a stretch, but we talk about teshuvah, again, to remind all our listeners, the important Jewish concept of returning as a way of expressing in Judaism a personal change and improvement. And there's another context in the Torah where coming back, and actually that same Hebrew root word comes back, and it is actually in the law of lost and found, of the mitzvah of returning things that are lost. So it's called hashavat aveda. Hashavat is like the word teshuvah. And so in Deuteronomy chapter 22 at the beginning it says, "Do not see your brother's ox or sheep stray and ignore them. Return, take them back to your brother. If your brother is not near to you, or you do not know whose it is, take it into your house, and it will be with you until your brother comes looking for it. Then return it to him. You may not pretend that you don't see it." So I was thinking about this because partly I wanted to force this in somewhere, but then I thought we have this little plot mystery that structures the beginning, which is the note that Eleanor has put in Janet's mouth right before the reboot. And so it's something that belongs to her. And I didn't remember it until I had to watch it a couple times, that it seems to me that Eleanor doesn't go looking for it, and Janet is like, "Oh, I think I have this thing, which is yours," which kind of sets off the whole thing. And then, although this isn't like usually Lost and Found, which is, "Oh, thank you for returning this thing, which I knew I lost." Eleanor doesn't realize that she had lost it, and Janet doesn't know what she's found. So part of it is that kind of discovery. But I have to say, one of my own favorite high holiday sermons I ever gave was about this as kind of a metaphor for things that we lose track of in our lives, and thinking about often our lives and maybe the world generally as having everything in it, but just kind of misplaced or in the wrong place. And sometimes people have things that we need that actually they were part of us, but they've just kind of drifted away. And partly, I guess, what happens in the drama of this double episode is everybody actually, they lost each other. They had just gotten all connected to each other at the end of season 1, and now they're detached from each other. And the whole thing is, how are they gonna get back, and how are they locate one another? And the idea that the mitzvah belongs to the person who has the thing. So again, Janet has this lost object, and she holds on to it for however long in her eternity of going back and forth from her void, and then she gets to surface it. I learned about this as a kind of spiritual concept from Reb Mimi Fagelson at the American Jewish University, who quotes the line from the Aretha Franklin song, which was not originally Aretha. It was Jerry Goffin and Carole King. "When my soul was in the lost and found, you came around and claimed it." And the idea that there's someone intermediate whose job it is to find your soul and then to help you get it back. So
Oh, I love that. And I love just what that teaches, John, about the way that these characters help each other find the lost parts of their souls over the course of their time together. I think that that's something that you've kind of picked up on here, and that they learn things about themselves from each other.
with Chidi, that there's something that he, in some sense, is looking for his ideal students who are gonna complete him. And I think in this episode, when Eleanor does find him, and we know that she is his lost object, and he doesn't even know that it's his. And which I think this in the Torah, the way it describes is that you might have something and you have to, like, you don't know whose it is, and you keep it with you as long as it takes, in a sense, until your brother comes looking for it. And Eleanor has this persistence in essentially trying to return something to him, because she doesn't know what she has either. Yeah.
So no, you're not stretching at all. And I think that one of the things that I also didn't notice until the rewatch was that the page that she writes the Find Chidi on is from the cover page, the title page of What We Owe to Each Other, the Scanlon book. And I remember that moment that Chidi is kind of realizing that they had studied moral philosophy together in their previous iteration of The Good Place. He's like, if we got to Scanlon, we got pretty far, in my syllabus, in my curriculum. And your Deuteronomy text that you brought on the idea of our obligations to see another's lost object and to do what we can to take care of it. And that specifically what you said at the very end of the selection, the quote that you chose, the verses is that you can't pretend not to see it. You have to see it. And that's one of the things that we owe to each other, to see each other's, needs of all kinds. And even if you don't know that it's a need, or you don't know who the need belongs to, that you see somebody's lost ox and it's somebody's lost ox. So you have the chance to fulfill another's need.
So Chidi says, either we got really far, or you stole one of my books, basically. And she's like, that sounds more like me. But you're right. It's right. She has a page of his book that he's missing, even though actually, I think it's an important page, even though it's not part of the argument, and that intrigues him. So this got me thinking too, that the Talmud says that one of the ways that you would try to return lost objects is to go to the temple in Jerusalem on the 3 pilgrimage festivals. So that would be Pesach, Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot. And you would go to this place, which is called the Even To'en, the stone for making claims for found objects. And you would have to keep going. So the idea is that even you don't just try once for a little bit, but you have essentially this whole cycle. And that just made me think, there's this, like, the party is where there is this party in the good place, well, whatever, the bad place, the station.
Are you about to say, John, that the massive shrimp cocktail tower is the stone of lost objects?
It is the stone of lost objects
in this neighborhood.
Yes. And sometimes they're hidden inside the shrimp, which is why you have to eat and disembowel them all, in order to find. But I don't know. Those are the festivals that were the big party happenings at the most glorious in ancient Jerusalem, and that's where you would go to proclaim lost objects and to look for them. So cool there. There's something in the Deuteronomy quote that I want to bring out, which is that it refers specifically to your brother's ox or your brother's sheep. And I know you'll kind of kindle to this kind of thinking, because it's sort of, and maybe actually to lead into what you have to bring us to, that I think about this as not just the literal ox or sheep, but that ox are the things that give us, like, power to execute things, to execute our plans or magnify our energies, and sheep represent either our kind of our nourishment or our warmth, the wool that we bundle up in. And in a way, for each of our main characters has somebody else who's kind of their ox, who kind of magnifies the direction of what they think they're trying to do in the world, and someone who's their sheep, who kind of makes them feel good. It's funny for Jason here in the episode. I think that's what Janet is like. She's just nice to him, and she's not instrumental to something he's trying to figure out. And for Chidi, Eleanor is like, his initially just the ox, like the way that he's going to see that his teaching is going anywhere. Although later, of course, we're going to definitely get warmth and nourishment that way too.
Hmm. What do you think Chidi? What do you think Chidi is to Eleanor?
That's interesting.
I think he's the ox, right?
Yeah. Well, everything I think to Eleanor at the moment is an ox. she's
Right.
definitely want to bull ahead with whatever she thinks is going on. Yeah.
I think that another way to think about this, though, is to understand Michael to kind of be the ox to all four of the humans in his own way, and then Janet to kind of be the sheep. Like you said, like Janet will always be there when I say her name, unless I forget her name and think she's Janine or Julie or
Bastille.
Yeah. Yes. Oh God. Can you imagine if her name were Alexa? How disastrous that would be in so many homes in America every time.
I wonder if anyone has programmed their
Alexa to be Janet. There has to be somebody who's done that.
Yeah. So you want to bring us teaching, Dan?
So I was thinking about plot twists in this particular episode. Obviously, the consequences of the plot twist, that the expertly executed plot twist that ends season 1. There's a wonderful text in Pirkei Avot, chapter 4:1, which is a collection of teachings, of rabbinic teachings, and this one is in the name of Ben Zoma. So Ben Zoma said, "Who is wise? He who learns from everyone. As it is said, from all who taught me, I have gained understanding. Who is mighty? He who subdues his evil inclination. As it is said, he that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that rules his spirit than he who takes a city. Who is rich? He who rejoices in his lot. As it is said, you shall enjoy the fruit of your labors, you shall be happy, and you shall prosper. You shall be happy in this world, and you shall prosper in the world to come. Who is he that is honored? He who honors his fellow human beings. As it is said, for I honor those who honor me, but those who spurn me shall be dishonored." So I love the plot twisty nature of this text. You ask the question, it starts with who is wise? And the answer that you expect, for example, would be from a rabbi like Ben Zoma would be, well, me. I would describe me as wise, right? Or I would describe, if we had to come up with a Platonic ideal of a wise person, we're thinking of, wizened old face with gray hair, or, maybe a beard, or, soft eyes or whatever. Who is strong? You're thinking of someone incredibly muscular, like Eleanor's new soulmate, right? The one who runs off to the gym at a moment's notice. Who's rich? A person who is rich. And who is honored? Well, somebody who is elevated in status, like the president or the head of the rabbis, right? The Nasi. And instead, we have these inversions, all grounded in text from the Bible, from Psalms, from Proverbs, from the prophets. And I was just thinking about what is the nature of kind of the plot twisty way that these characters interact with each other, and how they are all inversions of different ideals. So one of the things you and I were talking about before we hopped onto this episode was the idea that Eleanor is the one who figures it out, right? Who figures out, and when we have thought that Eleanor is the right character who's going to figure out. But also, I think that a part of this is, at least in terms of Eleanor, is that, and Michael brings us up in this episode, is that Eleanor and Jason are meant to think that they are mistakes and don't belong in the good place, whereas Chidi, until the part where Chidi is talking about getting to have breakfast with Kant and then dinner with Kant again to continue their conversation, and realizing that all the philosophers should have been a real tip-off to Chidi that he was not the good place, but whatever. So I think that what we see here also is the way that these characters all embody these texts, right? How their wisdom is increasing because they're learning from each other. Their strength is increasing because they're learning to control the urges that ended up causing them to be in the bad place in the first place. They are gaining in their joy and their richness because of the time that they get to spend with each other. And ultimately, the thing that they're learning is that moral excellence comes from honoring other people, from having a collection of people who you admire and respect and who push you. So I think that this is a really nice text to bring as we're reflecting on what's going to happen as part of the consequences of this plot twist in the Good Place.
I think you very much have to now figure out how to make a Benzoma meme of these four, because that is,
Oh yeah.
yeah. I was thinking about Tahani, who is rich and, who is happy with her lot, and she is so, disturbed by the was it Tomas? Is that his name? His
Tomas,
lack
yeah.
lack of interest in material things, and his line to her, which I love: "Your sister is Camila Al Jamil. I used to play her music for my patients. At times, it felt like Camila's songs were curing the malaria for us." And then she has this neat when she has her drunken speech at the party, which is like, "You all look so beautiful tonight with your regular sized pockets and regular sized soulmates." But I think that's very much, yeah, that's exactly what Tahani's thing is, and the who is wise, which is Chidi's challenge, as you're saying right there. And I think we already saw about him that he is so deepened, not just from Eleanor, but I think particularly like even him from Jason as well. I think we know along the way, really learning from every person.
And of course, the ultimate learning character as the show progresses, with a little bit of a spoiler hint here, is Michael,
Hmm.
who learns to love human beings in spite of the fact that he's a demon.
You mentioned the thing about who is honored, and I think that one is about Jason a lot. Who,
Mm.
the more they rag on him, both the other characters and I think just the show having fun with him, the more little moments they give him of being the one who speaks these pure truths,
Mm.
and who seems to look up. Now I think Jason's problem is he looks up to everybody else, and he also looks up to ridiculous people. There's literally nobody who Jason does not admire, I think, because of their capacity to destroy things or steal things or anything like that. But I hadn't thought about that. Often when we quote that teaching, Dan, we usually stop, I think, before the one about honor. I might be wrong, but
Yeah, no, I think that it's very often truncated at the who is wise, a person who learns from everyone, and it kind of builds as well in an interesting way to think about. If we were to talk about what's given priority here, this last idea of figuring out how to honor other people is actually the one that's given the primacy of the sort of the mic drop moment here.
The Mike
It's
Schur drop.
the mic sure drop, right? Not the idea of wisdom is taking preeminence in the rabbinic idea of virtues. It's actually not wisdom, it's honor, and it's specifically honoring other people.
Well, I'm
And
glad.
yeah, go.
No, no, I'm glad you said that, because I mean it does frame the issue of the good place and who gets to go there as who's worthy of honor,
Mm, mm.
and all the external trappings of honor and the fancy party compared to, Eleanor's ridiculous house where people often go to gather, which also, turns out to be in many ways the nerve center of where people grow and learn much more than the fancy
Well,
party.
something that you also just kind of made me think about, and reflecting upon this text a little bit more, is the idea again, that it builds towards honor. And so one of the answers to the question about who is honored is, you could say, who is honored? Someone who is wise, someone who is rich, someone who is mighty. And we actually already have the answers to, according to the rabbinic imagination, who a wise person is, who a rich person is, who a mighty person is. But no, it's not one of those things. It is someone who has the decency towards other people is the person who is deserving of honor.
Which is interesting in the sense that in the world of the orchestrators, the demon world, we have Janet, who in a way is at the top of that ladder. She really honors everybody, and it really, in this episode, it's her instinct for honoring people that leads her. Like, she doesn't really think about the master plan at all. Maybe she can't, even though she's got presumably all the knowledge necessary. Like, she gives this thing to Eleanor that she needs. She shows up. She doesn't judge the requests that people make while they're trying to figure things out. She just is there to serve them and to be nice to them. And on the other side, you have, the demons as a whole, and Vicky, who I think is the other kind of motor of things, because she's all about, I need to shine. I need to be the one, I'm a Ferrari, and you don't leave a Ferrari in the garage.
Angelique is a hack.
Yeah, actually. And which is going to drive so much of I think some of the clever plot turns, at least, if not actual twists. I love that you characterize this Benzoma as a plot twist, and because you're right, I guess if we think about this, the show, the real twist came in just the last few minutes of the episode that ended the previous season, and now so this really is the playing out of that twist, but it has its own twist. Like, if you were going to figure out, okay, how are they going to do the season premiere here, I'm not sure that I would have come up with anything like this. In a way, it's a twist that twists back. I mean, Michael thinks he's heading off in a new direction, and yet he just ends up in the same starting point where he is.
A twist that twists back. I like that.
A twist that twists back. I think that season 2 is a lot about drawing out these 4 ideas and how to make judgments about them. This teaching of Benzomas will certainly continue to pay off. So one of my congregants, an artist and craft maker named Karen Herman, a number of years ago, made a Benzoma doll that I could use in teaching kids. It would be something that you hold on to, because who's the one who's wise? The one who learns from every person, and that it would be the thing you hold when you're trying to get the kids to stop talking so that they can listen to someone else talking, and that we would pass Benzoma around. So I will take a picture of this and put it in the show notes. I love
that would be so fun.
Well, thanks, Dan. I think we're going to have a great season 2 here on the podcast, just as the show had a great season 2, and looking forward to talking to you more about it.
Amen. All right. Thanks, John. Always a pleasure.
So that's all for now, and what a great launch for season 2. If you're listening to these right as they're coming out, our next one is dropping out of sequence, so we can do an episode in time for the Jewish festival of Purim, which we celebrate by dressing in costume. So we're doing chapter 24. If you're listening to these later, and the time of year doesn't matter, you'll be able to skip over that one and listen in good place order if you want. I'm John Spira Savet at RabbiJS3 and RabbiJohn.net, and occasionally on TikTok at RavJohn. And Dan Ross is on Instagram at RAV_WOD with his Jewish named and themed workout videos. If you're enjoying the podcast, definitely subscribe, tell other people about it, give us a good rating, and connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Tov Good Place. You can find show notes and other resources on our website, tovgoodplace.com. I want to say thank you to my home base, Temple Beth Abraham in Nashua, New Hampshire. We're on the web at tbanashua.org. If you're in the area or passing through, check us out or join us online from anywhere. Thanks for letting us be part of your day. Now go learn more about something good.
Bum, bum, bum.